fumes. And I think I've been, for revenge purposes, falsely labeled as a meth cook. Because at one point, there was a little car with a license plate that read M Labs. I'm sure that stood for meth labs.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, kind of zooming around me, letting its presence be known. And, they have people, they'll have a couple people that'll talk, they're sending you a message. They'll be talking to each other, but they'll be saying, stuff like, yeah, he was in the drugs, or, yeah, he was a meth cooker, or a crime moved in the neighborhood. They're sending you the message, but they're doing it in a sly manner. And I've had a lot of that.
I know I have read other instances where they have used meth as a way to harass and label the targets. I even read about a married woman with 2 children, and they were labeling her family, as meth, production in her home. So she was getting that as well. So, it's amazing that so many of these things with so many of these victims are all tactics that they're using globally. All these gang stalkers use the same tactics.
Oh, yeah, this is happening the world over. I've talked to people in Canada, and I purchased, there was a lady in Toronto. She has a website, and I bought a DVD from her, and I mean, it was like watching My Typical Day. She captured exactly what they do. Lots of pointing to sensitize you. Lots of vehicles missing one hubcap. For a while, they wore a lot of those West Coast Choppers T-shirts with the Maltese cross on them, and a lot of firemen that were harassing me too would have those on the back, say the back window of their pickup or whatever. But they sensitize you with these different things. They bombard you with them so that in the future you can see someone who's not involved in your harassment and get a little nervous. You're not sure. Are they involved or,
Well, they try to instill paranoia in you so you don't trust anyone else and you don't go out and get help. Isolation is a main tactic that they use. They want you to be alone. They want you under their control.
And those are intelligence agency tactics. I mean, that has CIA written all over it. That's what they do. They gaslight their victims to death. They destroy them. I have a house I was renting to my nephew who just recently moved out a couple months ago. The house is vacant. Developed a pigeon problem out of the blue. I've had the house for 17 years, never had a pigeon problem. And suddenly, when I'm not living there, my nephew develops a pigeon problem around the dormer on the rooftop. And, I mean...
It's a messy problem.
It's a messy problem, and, I know somebody created that. Somebody's throwing birdseed up there or something. That didn't just happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like one of 1,000 things that they do. I've heard somebody describe this as death by 1,000 paper cuts, and that certainly is accurate.
Do you think that there's something they want you to do, or do you think they want you to commit suicide, like most victims?
I honestly believe that is one of their top goals. I've talked to some people that have had very inside positions in some of them in intelligence agencies, some of them in, say, the Merchant Marines, and they refer to it as suicided or murder by suicide, and that I think that may be their number one goal. But if they can just get you railroaded into a mental institution or a jail or prison, where I'm sure you won't be left alone, I think if that happens, they'll be happy with that also. It's to destroy the person.
And you do feel they want you totally destroyed?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know of a person, I never knew the person, but know of that person who was brought to homelessness and then had a highly suspicious hit-and-run car accident where they were killed. And I understand that is also typical in...
Yes, I've heard that. It is. I've had a car come close to hitting me too. It would have been a serious accident. Thank God I missed it. But I have read that being hit by a car is very common for gang stalking victims. And you said you were almost hit by a car.
Oh, they continue on a continuous basis. They try to get me in car accidents. Yeah, I have to be so on my toes. And they try to get you to hit them. They stop short at lights, stop signs. You know, they test you, and they try to distract you just before you're coming to a stop. They'll have another car come alongside of you, and the person in that vehicle might be moving their arms around or something to distract you. They are constantly trying to distract me to cause, at key moments, to cause accidents. Very common.
How has it affected your relationships?
It destroys your relationship because there's a floating character assassination program that follows me. I can go into a store and, let's say I've never been in this store before, and they deal with the counter person, maybe look at jewelry. You know, maybe I'm seeing what the competition sells. And this person will be pleasant with me, and I'll be pleasant back. And then I might come in a week later or a couple days later for some reason, and then that person seems very uncomfortable around me. That person heard something negative about me. And I'm very perceptive with this, and I pick up on this, and it's very common. In fact, it's almost always the case. I'll go into a place, and I'll come back, and I won't be treated the same.
How are you dealing with this? How are you fighting this? You know, obviously you've been very brave and courageous, and you came forward to get your story out to the public. But what else are you doing to deal with this?
Well, unfortunately, it has drove me to drink more than one time. Not recently, not for a few months, but there was about a 2-month period where I was on Prozac, and then I decided, you know, I wasn't happy with the side effects of that, and went off of it. And I try to exercise, eating well in vitamins, stress vitamins, B, B6, B12, folic acid, vitamins, really important. And exercise, because the weapons that they assault you with, they do things to your blood and joints. So you need to exercise to keep pumping that blood so that it keeps getting cleansed. Otherwise, I know if I don't exercise for, 2-3 days, it affects me, terribly.
Okay.
So that's very important.
We're running out of time, so is there anything else you'd like our listeners to know that, would educate them about this so that they're aware?
I wish I could direct them to good websites. I met others through the Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance website, and that's a network of victims of this, with different degrees of it. And certainly get in touch with them. Great guy who's running that.
Derek Robinson.
Yes, Derek Robinson, just a terrific man, and very helpful and kind and understanding. I've heard that some places you talk to will be sort of cold, but he's just a welcoming, warm, just a terrific human being. So I'm blessed that I, made contact with him, and it's helped significantly. And they have conference calls you can get involved with and communicate with others, and that's been really important.
That's a great site. They're very helpful there, and they really do help the targets. I know I've been listed on there too, and I work with Derek often, and I really think a lot of them. That website is freedomfchs.com. It's freedom, FREEDOM, capital